You know why I love petunias so much? Because of them, the little pollinators that flicker their wings around them and buzz so loudly it makes you question if they are not some kind of mini helicopters. And for a very long time I wanted to draw them, sketch out the petunias with the pollinators, specifically the ones that are regular visitors in my garden. But slowly it turned into a whole illustration, a visual story of pollinators' activity throughout the day and night. Hi YouTube, my name is Sofie and you can join me in this small sketchbook session about petunias and their pollinators. So here we have garden bumblebee, typically seen when the sun is out. Hummingbird Hawk-moth, which I like to call a hybrid between mosquito and a hummingbird, but they are much more useful than mosquitoes. Then with similar build, broad-bordered Bee Hawk-moth. God, that's a long name. Both of them active from early morning to dusk. And then I wanted to add Bedstraw Hawk-moth and Pine Hawk-moth, which I began to see around the summer only after getting petunias. Since I had this idea to draw them for some time, I already created several versions of how the page could look like in my mind. I first made a few thumbnails to see the ideas and compositions on paper. It's always good to make thumbnails because not every idea in your head will look as good once it's on paper. And as you work, you often come up with new ideas and perspectives. On a fresh page, I started by making a border with colored pencil, about 1 centimeter from each side, to optically make the page smaller. That way I could work in the inner space of the border and prevent any important elements from coming too close to the page. Before I started to draw, I made a quick visit to my petunias in the garden just to take few pictures of their stems, blooms and leaves for reference. Also, all the footage of animals here is mine, either taken this summer or last. Choosing to sketch with an orange pencil had its meaning. Since I knew I would be using Aquamarkers, I needed something that could be easily covered, but still leave enough of the sketch visible to work on. The orange also gave the drawing a warmer feeling. I used a red fineliner to add details on the pollinators, or to draw them directly to help separate them from the background. I made a soft underpainting before individually coloring them in. Aquamarkers work like watercolors. You can layer light colors over each other and dark colors over light, but not the other way around. They make nice gradients, but specifically these tend to feather slightly, and if you use them too much on one place, they can even feather the paper. Still, I love using them. Also, not sponsored, I was gifted these by my best friend. For the white parts, I used a white gel pen. I don't know if it was the border I made or what, but I started to get this Alphonse Mucha vibe from the page. Mucha was a Czech painter, illustrator and graphic artist, born in 1860 and died in 1939. He lived in Paris during the Art Nouveau period. Art Nouveau was often inspired by nature forms, such as the curves of plants and flowers. Before starting the background, I got the idea to add the name of each animal next to them. It makes it feel more sciencey, like a nature journal or from a book about pollinators. For the petunias, I begin with yellow underpainting with the Aquamarkers for all the blooms, leaves and stems, and then layered green on top. Which reminds me to talk about the composition. The pyramid arrangement of the flowers allowed me to place each pollinator from top to bottom in a way that aligned with the time of the day you would usually see them. The garden bumblebee is at the top with a light blue color as a sky that I will add because he is mostly active during the day. The Hummingbird Hawk-moth and the one with very long name, broad-bordered Bee Hawk-moth, can be seen during the day but also at dusk. So later I made their background gradient, slowly turning pink and purple. And last, the Bedstraw Hawk-moth and Pine Hawk-moth. They usually feed at dusk and night, but before I was actually recording this audio, I saw the Bedstraw Hawk-moth in the middle of the day. I never seen before, and later I found it sleeping close to the petunias on my house wall. But because they are mostly active at dusk at night, I wanted to make the sky dark behind them and the petunias they were on in a shadow. When the illustration was almost done, I wanted to add a simple title on the page to go along with names I had already written by each pollinator. I did some lettering, so I was hand drawing and testing how the letters should look like. First I wrote it in orange Aquamarker, but since it wasn't very visible, I went over with the only colored acrylic marker I possess, this shade of pink. I also added a few details with it on the petunias to make them pop against the background, and after a few more details it was done. It actually took me 2 separate days to finish, but I love it. The layer of the light pink over yellow color on the petunias by the Bedstraw Hawk-moth in the lower part of the page created the effect of shadow, and I love how all the little pollinators turned out. The only thing I would have changed is the size of the title. I could have made it a little bigger, I think. Anyway, I'm happy with the outcome, and you can let me know in the comments if you have a favorite pollinator or maybe an animal you like to draw. Take care and keep noticing the little things. Bye bye!